Action Figures! Oi, 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 oi! Outback Action Figures! Oi, 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 oi!
G'day, how's it going? Welcome back to Outback Action Figures. Now, I've spoken about these for long enough, so let's get into these Batman villains from Mafex. Starting off with the winner of the poll I had up on the channel, is Catwoman. So, as usual, we'll start off with just a quick look at the packaging here. Now, this is based on the Batman Hush comic, so it's got the big Batman Hush logo on the side there with the sort of dark blue background. We've obviously got a picture of the figure here, and this is Catwoman from Batman Hush. It's made by Mafex, the brand is Medicom, and got the old DC logo there. On the side we can see another shot of the figure, plus the same Batman Hush, DC, Catwoman, Mafex. This is number 123 in the series. On the back we've got a bunch of other photos of the figure, different posing and different options for the head here as well. Got the whip accessory, and yeah, all the same sort of logos and numbers and everything as well. On this side we have Batman Hush logo again, and another shot of the figure, DC logo, and the little hologram sort of sticker there. So we can see the character here. You can see a couple of the alternate heads. It does even come with an alternate sort of torso here with the whip sort of sculpted to wrap around it. You can see on the edge here there's a few different hands and things, but we'll have a proper look once we actually get it open. So let's do that now. Alright, so here we see the figure, a couple of the alternate parts, different hands, and the whip accessory at the bottom. It does come with a flight stand for different posing and stuff as well, but we'll take a look at that later. Let's get everything out and see what we've got here. So, now that we've got everything out, let's have a bit of a closer look. Now we've got the actual figure here. It's all done in a very glossy black sort of material, the plastic, but it does have a different finish on the gloves here, which is cool. It makes it look like a different material. And moving on to the accessories, we've got, like I mentioned before, as we were looking at the box, it has an alternate torso piece here, so we can swap out the one that's actually on the figure. And this one looks like it's got the whip wrapped around it. If we see sometimes, you know, in the comics or movies and stuff, she just has that wrapped around. So that's another option there. And we've got two different heads here. So the one on the figure has the goggles on and just like a slight little smirk on the face. This one looks like the same actual face sculpt, just with the goggles up on the head instead. And we have this other option, the goggles on, but with a open sort of gritted teeth, you know, angry look. So we've got a few decent options there for the heads. She comes with the whip accessory here. And as you can see, there's a couple little breaks along, not actual breaks, but just sort of gaps in the sculpt where it's actually articulated along there. So they're very small, gents. I'll be a bit delicate with this, but you can sort of turn that around. So if you want the, you know, if you want the whip to face a different direction or whatever, you can do that. And the good thing where they've done it right on the bend here, so you can turn it around and it's still, you know, it doesn't look out of place. That bend that the whip follows, it still makes sense. So that gives you, you know, more different posing options with that. But again, like I said, these joints are very small. It's very thin sort of plastic here, so I will be very gentle with that. And if you get this figure, I would suggest probably do the same. And of course we do have 5 different sets of spare hands here, as well as the sort of relaxed hands that come on the figure. So we'll start off, we've got these ones here. You have these open sort of splayed out hands. We've got these claw hands, you know, like ready to attack. Comes with a pair of pointing fingers. We've got the set of grip hands for holding onto the whip. And finally, as I always say, you've got to have a set of fists with a figure, and she does have those. So quite a good selection of hands and, you know, a few different heads there. It would have been cool to see maybe like a diamond or a necklace or, you know, some sort of jewelry that she's stolen. I think that would really fit with the character. I can't think of much else you could really include in terms of accessories here. I think it's, you know, good selection of alternate hands, gives you plenty of options for different poses and, you know, different shots for the photography, for example. But yeah, aside from just adding maybe some jewelry or some, you know, some loot, maybe a bag or something that she's stolen, that could have sort of been a welcome addition as well, I think. But otherwise, yeah, we'll just have a look at the actual figure. So that's the head sculpt that comes on there with the goggles on and the sort of calm face. It does have, you know, especially looking from side on, Just a slight bit of a smirk there. And as I was saying, the suit is all done in this very glossy black, so it looks kind of like a leather or, latex kind of outfit, cat suit. But as I was saying, yeah, the gloves are done in this more matte finish, so that gives them a sort of a leather or, like a cloth sort of appearance. Got the big buckle in the middle here that is painted silver, which is quite nice. Has this little silver ring at the top here as well on the neck joint, and a little seam that runs down the middle. And it's fairly plain, but I mean, it does match the comic appearance, just a plain black suit. And we come down here to the legs. Again, just that, skin tight suit running all the way down, and that same sort of matte material for the boots gives them that, sort of cloth appearance as well. The big silver buckle on top, which, calls back to the belt buckle here. And then the sort of grey on the soles. Yeah, just finishes it off quite nicely. Alright, so now that we've had a look at all the bits and pieces and the figure itself, let's check out the articulation. Alright, so as usual, we'll start at the head here. Now, you get a full 360 rotation on there, and it can get a good tilt from side to side. You can lean back. Now there's a joint at the bottom of the neck as well, so that whole neck part can move. And you can tilt forward to look down. So I'll pop that off and let's have a look. So, yeah, that's got a dumbbell joint with a bit of a bend in it, like not broken or anything, but it is supposed to bend that way. So you can have it that way, or if we turn it around and get a bit more motion sort of tilted backwards on there. I think that probably works best if we just have that leaning forward. Doesn't make a huge difference, it's only a slight angle on there. So as I was saying, yeah, that neck joint at the bottom looks like a bit of a ball joint, so you can move that back and forward and a little bit side to side as well. And let's pop that back on. Alright, there we go. So that just snaps on. But yeah, good range in the head. On the side we've got, don't think it's actually a butterfly joint, but it does have a good little back and forward motion, and you can go a bit up and down as well. So yeah, pretty much full range of motion on that joint there at the shoulder. It comes, let's see, how far up? Don't want to push that too far, but yeah, it comes up to about 90. Obviously you can just turn around and lean up that way. And it does get full rotation on that joint as well. You have a swivel at the bicep here. And double jointed elbows. Let's see. Yeah, it comes up a little bit past 90-degree bend on the elbow there. And we've got the little ball joints here in the wrist as well, so they spin all the way around. You can have it hinge up and down, or if you just sort of twist that round, you can go in and out as well. Yeah. So you get good range of motion on the hands and the arms in general. So there's a little joint there at the top of the torso. That's where we can actually just pop that off. And that's where it's got the other joint here that comes down. That's like a little dumbbell joint, same as the neck. And we can see there, that's where the alternate torso could go. So we'll have a go at that now. We'll just pop that one off there. It's got that joint there, another little sort of dumbbell at the bottom. Let's try this other one. Let's just match it up. So the buckle sort of goes towards the bottom. So we stick that on there. That just pops in nicely. And we'll set the top part back on as well. A little bit tricky to line it up, but there we go. So yeah, that gives you another look, just having the whip wrapped around. But we'll continue on with the articulation. So as you can see, there was those joints in the middle. You get a good sort of side-to-side tilt on that. And you can crunch back. Pretty good there. And bend forward. Well, hang on, that's bending the legs as well. But yeah, you get a little bit of a crunch forward, not super far. The legs feel like they do drop down a little bit from the hip joint there. And the same with like the last Mafex we did, the Homelander. It doesn't have a cut in the thigh here like the other sort of Marvel Legends and some of the cheaper figures do. So it keeps a good sculpt on the legs here, but you do get the rotation just on that hip joint. Not a massive amount, but it's still pretty good. We've got the double jointed knees there. So that comes up pretty far. And there's no no swivel at the top of the boot, but you get that same sort of ball joint here as what was in the wrist. So you can, swivel down there, and then obviously that can kick forward and back a little bit. And we get some toe joint articulation there. Comes up just a little bit, nothing too crazy. Now, the actual leg can kick forward pretty far. That comes up a bit, and if we rotate on that hip joint, you can get way up. Just, it is sort of pushing the limits a little bit there in terms of reality and the actual physics of what the figure can do, so I don't want to push that too far. But yeah, it can kick out pretty much the whole way. So you get a good split there, which that does fit the character because she's meant to be very, athletic and flexible. So yeah, that's pretty good range on the legs. Decent range on the body overall. Not a huge amount for crunching forward, as we saw before, but I think, yeah, in general, it's quite a good range. Pretty happy with that. It's a little tricky to stand up just because the feet are a bit small, but once you get it there, it's fine. It balances perfectly. All right, let's take a look at some of the other accessories, and we'll try out some different options here. So I noticed earlier with that sort of busy background there, it was having a little bit of trouble focusing on the actual figure. It kept sort of going in and out. So I thought I'll try just this plain white backdrop and just give that a go. So hopefully this works. Now also, as we can see here, it does come with pretty standard the Mafex flight stand. So I just thought we'll have a go at that. So I got it up in a bit of a flying kick sort of attack pose here. So for that we've got the claw hands on and the angry face with the open mouth there. So yeah, just showing more options that you can do with this. And the posability as well, I think that's worked out pretty well. But we'll try something else, let's have a look. So in a lot of forms of media, whether it's the movies, comics, TV shows, games, whatever, Catwoman is often depicted as a fairly, flirtatious, seductive sort of character. So I thought we'll try something like that to sort of represent that side of her as well. So we've gone for the head here with the goggles up, and you can see that, a little hint of a smirk there. I've got the whip in her other hand at the back, and if we just sort of tilt the legs forward a bit at the hip joint and then arch the torso back, we get this very, sort of curvaceous pose, I suppose you could say. Just showing again the options that you can get with her. So, get a good look at the head there. And, yeah, just more options for however you choose to display her. So I think this one works out pretty well. Again, it's a little bit tricky just to balance because those feet are quite small, but once you actually get it into a standing pose, it seems to stay up fairly well. Next, we'll do a couple of side-by-side comparisons. I do have two other Mafex figures I got years ago before I started the channel, so I haven't done reviews on those ones, but I'll chuck them in and we'll just have a look, see how they measure up. So, just for a little side-by-side comparison here, from the same Batman Hush line, we've also got the Mafex Harley Quinn here. Now this one I got a couple of years ago, I haven't done a review on it. Well, it was before I started the channel, like I said before. I may go back at some point and, we'll have another look at her. But also from the Marvel Mafex line, we've got the evil Gwenpool. Now I think, Catwoman obviously being from the same line as Harley Quinn, the Batman Hush series, I think they line up perfectly. I think evil Gwenpool the character is supposed to be like about teenage sort of age, I think. So she doesn't quite match up with these because I believe, in this appearance, these are supposed to be like basically adult women, not teenagers. So the height and just the body proportions don't quite match up. But still, just to give you a comparison of how they line up against other figures, like I said, yeah, I think this is going to look perfect with the other Batman Hush characters. So once we get through those, like Poison Ivy in particular, I think she'll fit in perfectly with these two. And the other villains from the Batman Hush line, I'm sure they'll line up perfectly here as well. And just as an example, what I was saying before with the accessories, if she had to come with, like, a little necklace or some sort of jewel, I think this could be a perfect pose to have her, holding it in that open hand here. Just a small little missed opportunity, but something that they could have improved on, I think. Maybe if they do a reissue at some point, that's something they could add in. So, just to wrap things up here, on first impression, just having a look at the figure in the box, and then when we first got it out, first impression was, it looked awesome. And then once we had a closer look and gone through some of the accessories and stuff, yeah, I'm very happy with this one. I think it's awesome. It looks great. It's, just an iconic look for the character, regardless of, the specific storyline that this is based on, the Batman Hush comic. Even though it is based on that, I still think this is just, a great iconic representation of how the character looks. So, yeah, very happy to add this one to the collection. Coming up next, we'll be continuing on with the Mafex Batman villains, so stick around. That one will be coming up soon. Thanks so much for watching, and please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Stick around for more, and we will see you next time. Cheers. See ya.